Good morning and welcome to this February 16th, 2021 meeting of the House Education and Finance Committee. Remote hearings such as this are held in accordance with Rule 10.01. This rule has been posted online and is linked to in our public meeting notice on the House website. All remote hearings will be recorded and live streamed by House Public Information Services. Members have the contents of their packets available to them. And for the public, these same materials have been posted online. Members, if you're looking for all these items in one place, they are attached in the calendar event you have that Ms. Burt sent for today. To get on the list to be recognized by the chair, members using the Zoom interface have the ability to raise their hand via the app. Ms. Burt will place your name on the list to be recognized. Ms. Sunderland, would you please take the roll?
Chair Davnie.
Present.
Vice Chair Sandsted.
Present.
Representative Kresha.
Present.
Representative Bennett.
Present.
Representative Daniels. Representative Daniels.
Present.
Representative Dameth.
Present.
Representative Drazkowski.
Present.
Representative Erickson.
Present.
Representative Feist.
Present.
Representative Jordan.
Present.
Representative Marquardt.
Present.
Representative Mueller.
Present.
Representative Richardson.
Present.
Representative Thompson. Representative Thompson. Do you see him on the call here? Representative Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, present.
Representative Zhang.
Present.
Representative Joachim is excused. Representative Thompson, are you there?
Yes, Representative Thompson's present. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That is the roll, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sunderland. Representative Dameth, have you had the opportunity to review the minutes from Thursday, February 11th? And if so, would you like to move their approval?
Thank you, Chair Davnie. Yes, I have had a chance to review those minutes. I would move them.
Thank you very much. Any discussion to the Dameth motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Dameth motion to approve the Thursday, February 11th minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Thank you again for Representative Dameth. Representative Sandstein, if you would take the, I guess, the virtual gavel.
I accept the virtual gavel. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Today we are going to be hearing testimony on House File 1064. No formal action will be taken on this bill. Representative Davnie, would you like to introduce your bill?
I would. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Members, House File 1064 is Governor Walz's proposal responding to COVID-19. Excuse me? Responding to the impact of COVID-19 on our students, families, and schools. He proposes $88.875 million in fiscal year 21, current year dollars for immediate needs. That couples with elements of the governor's fiscal year 22 and 23 biennial budget proposal. Also importantly, it complements federal ESSER and GEAR funding for schools. The proposal has 5 primary goals: providing summer school programming through community partnerships, providing summer mental health services, addressing declining enrollment in some schools, ensuring college readiness for recent high school graduates, and providing early learning opportunities for young children who may have missed out on pre-kindergarten or kindergarten opportunities due to the pandemic. Madam Chair, with me today is Deputy Commissioner Mueller from the Department of Education. I'd ask at this time for you to recognize her, and she will lead us through the bill.
Good morning and welcome to the committee, Deputy Mueller. For the record, please identify yourself and then proceed.
Thank you, Chair Sandstein. My name is Heather Mueller. I'm the Deputy Commissioner with the Minnesota Department of Education. And I want to thank you all for letting us come here today and talk you through our proposal. I think Megan is going to pull it up. Thank you very much, Megan. We just want to walk this through with you just in a high level. We know we spent some time with you. I think it was last week, or maybe it was the week before. I think time is right at this point, just a number of things. And so, but I know that we came and we spent some quality time with you to talk through, specifically around some of these components, but we really want to highlight where we are with our summer package. And so looking at, we can move to the next slide, please. Looking at the total summer package, it really includes two pieces of funding. One is around the federal funds, and then the second are the funds that we are requesting through this bill. Our goal is to continue to support schools as they navigate the pandemic while we're prioritizing in-person learning for as many students as safely possible. We really want to make sure that we're expanding not only our academic opportunities, but also our mental health services as we support every student in this summer and then following into the subsequent school year, and support then a one-time investment to ensure our pandemic enrollment loss does not negatively impact students as they are moving into their 21 school year. And it really needs to be a piece where we know that right now our school leaders, our charter schools, as well as our school districts are really thinking about how is they're going to staff for summer, the programming that they're going to be providing, and helping to work with students and families to really move forward with summer programs. So we are asking that we be able to move this package earlier than any other budget components, simply because right now is the time where our school leaders are already doing the work in preparing for summer. This is about the time that we start all of that. I was just on a call actually with charter school leaders from across the state, about 100 charter school leaders. And the first question they asked is, when are we going to know more information about summer? Because we're planning and we're already starting to try and hire. And so it's one of those pieces that's incredibly important as we think through this, is that timing is important. We also just want to make sure that we're really clear about the total cost of the package. In looking at the funding that we would be utilizing from our GEARS and from our ESSER funds would be roughly $73 million. And then the funding that we are asking for here is 92.375 million in one-time funding. And so in that, with those funds, we are looking again to expand our mental health supports in a variety of ways. We're going to touch on that quickly. Provide community partnerships, neighborhood programs, field trips, and hands-on learning, in addition to tutoring opportunities through community partnerships. Expands our 2021 preschool programming for our 4 and 5-year-old students, providing, again, for that pandemic enrollment loss, supporting high school students and recent graduates with college readiness opportunities, and supporting and expanding our adult education opportunities. We are really thinking about, right from our youngest learners to the oldest learners, that we are able to help to support through the Department of Education. When we talk about pandemic enrollment loss, it's roughly $25 million in one-time declining enrollment revenue. It does increase the declining enrollment allowance by roughly $1,346.24, and it's allocated on a 90-10 basis, which is roughly $22.5 million from fiscal year 21 and $2.5 million from fiscal year 22. In the end, it covers the loss of about 17,000 students, or 18,639 weighted pupils. As we talk about mental health supports during the summer, it's one of the things that we've heard most from our community, from our families, as well as from our students and educators, is the concern around the mental health and the support of our students. And so one is we're going to be able to maintain that continuity and partnership with our DHS partners for schooling to mental health grants, roughly at $5 million for our students, and then $1 million for our staff. And so it's a really important piece. We're going to be able to serve approximately 8,100 students in more than 1,100 sites. And it also allows us, for one of the very first times, to use this funding to also support our school staff. as they are continuing to work with our students. Also expanding our mental health and well-being supports. We want to be able to make sure that we have grants that are available to our districts and charter schools to take the staffing that we do have in our counselors, social workers, school psychologists, and school nurses, and have them available across the state and on site to be able to help to support and reinforce not only individual counseling and support services and programming, but also to build a really cohesive approach to social emotional learning while they are learning along with their academics. As we think about partnerships in our summer programming, we know that what we are doing this summer cannot be consistently school-centric. We know that there is a lot that happens outside of our school and of the walls of a school building. And so being able to partner with our community partners in looking at programs that offer mentoring programs, tutoring services, and how do we also rely on their expertise to help to build and wrap around services for our students. And then neighborhood programs is a really important one as well, because again, we have students who may not be able to participate because one of the things that they do actually over the summer is care for their siblings or care for their parents or need to be at home. And so that by nature limits them from being able to come into the building. And so we want to be able to take academic and social, emotional, and mental health supports out into neighborhoods, whether that's going into an apartment building, going into a park, and making sure we're providing food and some of childcare if appropriate, and making sure that our students are getting the academic and mental health supports that they need. When we look at partnering, additional partnering programs in the summer, those tutoring services, again, we have really amazing partners out in the community who work alongside our schools and on behalf of our students and families in tutoring services. And so we will be able to help to, again, partner with them around not only the academic enrichments, but also the mental health supports. And then field trips. We know that a lot of students have not had the opportunity to get out, and there have not been a lot of things that have been open as a result of COVID. And having the ability to take what you are learning and apply it in real world situations to be able to provide common links for our students in looking at what's available and how you apply that in experiences. This gives us the opportunity to be able to do that and to take what they're learning and to really apply it in different and unique ways. The expansion of our preschool programs for 4 and 5-year-olds this summer is something that we know is incredibly important to really maintain that continuity and help to build those skills. And again, looking at our youngest learners at the rate of about $4,800 per child, it will cover roughly 4,166 children who would be able to enroll in a preschool programming that are not enrolled in kindergarten and really help to support their continued growth in not only academics, but also in social emotional learning. It is targeted at students who have been historically underserved. It's looking at our Black student population, our Indigenous student population, and then also our students of color. And it offers roughly a minimum of 6 instructional hours per day for 5 days a week for between 10 and 12 weeks. Also looking at the college readiness and adult education, when we think again about the broad spectrum of students we've served, we've talked about our youngest learners, we've talked about our students who participate in K-12, and we also know that we are going to have a group of students who are graduating from high school, and once they do, they don't have access to that summer school programming. And so we also know that they have had interrupted learning as well. And so to provide them the opportunity to really partner with a post-secondary institution to either, continue to build that support and look at an option that's available to them and to reinforce, again, their academic approach. The second is really looking at, with our partnership in the Office of Higher Education, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that, is our Summer Academic Enrichment Program and Intervention for College Attendance Programs. It's roughly $625,000 for our underrepresented grade school students to attend summer academic enrichment programs that are offered by Minnesota post-secondary institutions, and roughly $500,000 for ICAP to target underrepresented students with compelling pathways to college education. And then finally, looking at our adult basic education students, those who may be learning, who may be coming and learning not only additional languages, but also getting the foundational skills in academics, as well as building on their GED or any type of other programs or any of the pathways that are identified. It really gives us to fund all 39 existing ABE grantees to enhance service for an estimated 60,000 adult learners. And with that, I will hand it back to the chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Deputy Mueller. Questions from members? I see a few hands up. Representative, and I apologize, I don't know who was first, but Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner Mueller. This is a lot of spending, and I noticed that the administration gets up to 2% of the appropriation for, I would imagine, trying to help with this. So would you provide us with who at the department will be in charge of subdivisions 2 through 9? So we know who we can count on with questions. And then what are the goals in each of these new programs or continuation of programs, and what do you expect the outcomes to be? So if you could provide us in the very near future with the goals in both learning and social and emotional needs, and the outcomes that you expect for this $80+ million in spending. Thank you.
Ms. Mueller.
Thank you, Chair Sandstein, and thank you very much, Representative Erickson. I think that there were a couple of different questions within that, and so I want to make sure that I'm hitting all of the questions. And so the first one is really, I think you were talking about sections 2 through 9, I think was your first question, and wanting to know specifically about that. And so I'm going to ask, I know that one is that we are not hiring any additional FTEs to focus specifically on the summer. It is really going to be built into the work that we are already doing. We have a number of divisions who work in each of these different areas. And so they are going to be, we're going to be continuing and having a really concerted and interdisciplinary, I guess is another way to say that, approach along the Department of Education, and so that we're not siloed in our work, but recognize there are different points within each of our divisions to be able to build on that. I don't know if we do have additional team members here, if there's anyone else from the team who'd like to join in on that part of the conversation before I move on to the next question in that.
There, Mr. Uni, was your hand up?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Thank you. And Representative Erickson, I think what would be helpful for the committee, because there are several programs, is for us, we can come back, as you had mentioned, to provide detailed information on the outcomes we're hoping to see, as well as we can provide you information on specific divisions that will manage each specific program.
Thank you. Representative Erickson, any follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Uni, for clarifying that. I think it is important, as we will be out there in the field during the summer, that we know who in the education department will be in charge of these various areas, and that we know ahead of time, what the goal is and what the expected outcome is. We want these to be evidence-based. I point to Representative Bennett and the proposal that she often carries, that when we're spending, we want evidence that the spending has been positive. And in this regard, it's for all that lost learning that's occurred during our children's absence from their classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do have a question for the presenter about the bill. I'm wondering, and I'll give a little reasoning for this, why I'm asking the question, but I'm wondering if there is a requirement in the governor's bill for schools to get back to full-time in-classroom learning. And the reason I ask that is that there, if we don't get to the core reason for learning loss, the things that we're doing are just going to be secondary and not really address the real issue. To me, it would be similar to when I'm attempting to teach a child to read, and that child is struggling, and I'm trying this and that I'm not getting to possibly the core problem that child needs eyeglasses. And if we don't give the child eyeglasses, then the rest of the strategies aren't going to help much. And that's how I see the returning to school. If we don't get to the core problem of getting kids back into our schools full time, these additional measures are not really going to succeed. So I'll go back to my question, is requirement as a requirement for returning to full-time in-person learning in this bill? And if it's not, why is it not in there?
Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Chair Sandstein, and thank you very much, Representative Bennett. A couple of different things. I think from the very beginning, the goal has been to have as much in-person learning as safely possible. And so to be able to identify that, like, within the federal funds, it is really for in-person components of learning, and with the CDC's guidance and being able to continue to look at ways that we're going to be able to do to provide in-person learning. I think there's a couple of other notes is that we do have schools across the state who have been in person since the fall, and specifically in greater Minnesota, as well as more recently our elementary students across the state, in addition to looking at greater Minnesota. And I know that as an educator himself, with the governor as well as the lieutenant governor being a school board member, and as an educator myself, the role of in-person and being actually together in a classroom plays in a student's academic career and trajectory. We want to be able to have our students, every single student, in a classroom as much as safely possible. And again, also cognizant of the fact that we've had a number of schools that have been able to do that across the state.
Thank you, Commissioner. Representative Bennett, any follow-up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just would, I guess I would encourage the component or requirement that before schools can access this funding, they need to return to in-person learning. The CDC has recommended this and said it's safe. And I really feel like in order to get learning back on track, we need to do that. So that's just an encouragement I would give. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any Commissioner, any response to that?
No, thank you well, yes, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Very good, very good. I see Representative Thompson has a question.
Thank you, Chair Sandstein, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Just a few quick questions, and I wrote them down. I heard you talk about college readiness, but I didn't really hear you say anything about career pathways and any funding going that way. And I just wanted to ask you a question about that. Also, I was listening closely because I do know that we always talk about parent involvement being key to our children's success.
Mhm.
What better way to involve the parents than to hire them in some roles inside of these schools? What we're asking the parents to do in a pandemic is be the lunch lady, the tutor, the teacher, and miss work without any compensation for the parents. Homeschooling almost for free is what we're having. And then the community partners I heard you speak of, and I was just trying to get these questions. The community partners I heard you speak of, when it comes to ideas, especially in our communities, we have some unique issues that arise throughout the African American community, Hmong community, Somali community, and we have some very unique and culturally specific issues that arise. And so even the food choices, when we talk about what we feed our kids, I hear a lot of times some of these choices are very nasty choices for the kids, almost like airplane food is what I'm hearing from a lot of the children. But the question that I'm trying to get to is, like, when we talk about the field trips and all of these ideas that we come up with, who's at the table making these decisions? Because a lot of times what happens is you don't really get to hear these lived experiences when it comes. And so I think that's the way we change what we've been trying to change for the longest time. I think we're pumping our money into a lot of things that we've already funded that has not worked for, especially my community. It has not worked. And so a lot of times what happens is we're not at the table, so we're on the menu at the end of the day when so, like, I wanted to just speak to that, because these are some of the things that my constituents constantly talk about. And I'm so glad that you're here, because those are some of the questions that I definitely want to ask. Like, who's at the table making, even with the field trips, like where do it makes no sense to take a kid, you understand where I'm going with that question, though. So for the sake of time, I just wanted to ask you those questions.
Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Chair Sandstein, and thank you, Representative Thompson. I think that a couple of pieces. One, I'm going to start with the question you asked around career pathways, and so career pathways has been identified. One for summer, looking at the partnership with the Office of Higher Education and some of the work that they've identified as in the summer package, as well as it is part of our current biennial budget, building, expanding pathways, not only expanding those pathways by geography, but expanding the access, participation, and representation of our African-American students, our students of color and Indigenous students, right? And our students who also utilize special education services. And so really expanding that is included in our biennial budget, which we are not talking about today, but we would love to talk about more. And then so that would be the first part around the career pathways. The second, you had asked around family engagement. That also actually is part of the biennial budget, is to really build a specific family engagement model, and to have some universal components, but also to be able to diversify and delineate it by specific demographic groups. For your very point, specifically is looking at very culturally specific components and making sure that we are partnering in ways that are respectful and inclusive, and also provide that access, representation, and participation. And again, is not necessarily a school-centric focus. And so those are also parts of the biennial budget, but also know that for things like our tutoring, the tutoring funds that were identified here can certainly be used to work with families and with who would like to be able to come in and do this work. And so they certainly could be paid, right, as tutors. And so that is one part that is included in this funding. And then around the community partnerships and looking, there have been a series of things. One, we did do very specific focus groups early on that were based in a variety of demographics who represented our state's community, as well as our school communities and students. We also were able to pull, the governor's office pulled together a roundtable discussion from very specific, not only educational groups, but interested education organizations and partners across the state to be able to pull some of these pieces together. It's also been working in conversations with our students, as well as with additional education models, organization models. And so there is very purposeful approaches to making sure that, again, to your point, that there are very specific and common things that we know that are really solid, that are educational best practices, but that also need to be differentiated for a variety of reasons. And one is based on demographics and looking at the African-American community, our Somali community, right, our Hmong community, and recognizing where we need to differentiate our approach and be culturally conscious and culturally appropriate, and also solid partners in getting feedback. And the second is also looking at places where we have students who also utilize special education services, students who also utilize EL services. And so really looking at a broad spectrum. And so that's where our partnerships lie. And we're going to continue to, quite frankly, to continue to get better at that work.
Follow-up, Representative Thompson.
One last follow-up. Thank you, Chair. The kids in the schools, some of the kids have special needs, autism, epilepsy, the special needs kids. And now their pandemic looks like an epidemic right now. And so I was wondering, when in the packet, was there anything specifically catered to those students also? Because they're definitely going to need our help more than ever now, and the support teams. And so I just wanted to just follow with that last part. Sorry.
Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think that a couple of things is, one, first and foremost, that every program that we provide really is meant for every single student, and then we need to modify that based on need. And so every student who receives special education service is first and foremost a general education student. And so our work is to ensure that those experiences provide equitable access to our students who do need additional services, such as special education. The other piece is it's also making sure that we have expanded like our ESYs, which is a very specific type of program that's available to students who receive special education services, to be able to really specifically hone in on very specific skills that they need to continue to build as part of the program in there in additional support for the education services. So I think that there are a couple of pieces that we are very cognizant of in that, and do recognize that what we need to be able to do is what we do provide is for every single student then does need to be modified for students who might need additional special education services.
Thank you, Commissioner. Representative Davnie, I see we have several testifiers on our list. Would you like to move to those now? Not seeing any other questions.
Madam Chair, I know there's a lengthy list of folks who are wishing to testify, and I would urge that we move to them.
Very
and hear,
good.
what they have to say. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Very good. First on my list, I have Niki Oliver. Please identify yourself for the record and welcome.
Hello, hi, Madam Chair. Hi, members. My name is Niki Oliver. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And for the record, I'm the manager of grants and government relations for the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. And I'm here to speak on those two programs that the Deputy Commissioner mentioned earlier that are administered through our agency, the Summer Academic Enrichment Program and the Intervention to College Attendance Program. And I just want to reiterate that these are essentially supplement to some of the requests in the MDE budget for summer learning and summer school. So these are out of school programs that would supplement that learning. So the Summer Academic Enrichment Program is a program we administer. It's currently appropriated $125,000 each fiscal year. And this program allows for students a stipend up to $1,000 to attend a summer academic enrichment program. And the request here is for an additional $625,000 for this 2021 summer to supplement not necessarily learning loss that students have experienced, but the rigor that students has lost due to COVID. Some of those programs that we support are Bakken Museum, Best Prep, Concordia College, Health Force Minnesota, Minnesota Institute of Talented Youth, St. Cloud State University, St. Olaf College, University of St. Thomas, Wolf Ridge Environmental Learning Center. So we typically have about 12 what we call sponsors or camps, and they offer multiple programs, so about 35 programs that are offered. The other program that we are requesting summer funds for, and to Representative Thomas's point, these programs are targeted to underrepresented individuals, and we support a lot of nonprofit community organizations such as Emerge, Banyan Adolescents Education Support for College Success, Latinx Youth Empowerment Programs, and we see a significant success, and I'm speaking to the ICAP program now, significant success with the students that are in these programs above our state average as far as high school completion and college attendance. And to the point about career navigation, a lot of these programs also do that. It's not just college going, it's also other educational pathways. For example, Emerge Community Development provides, not only do they provide college visits, financial aid, and college application workshops, they also provide career exploration training and additional work around career opportunities for those students. So those are the programs, and I think I will stand for questions about what those programs do and what they are exactly. And if there's I apologize, Madam Chair. Another point that I wanted to make regarding in person is that last year obviously was an anomaly, and that we're seeing this year that now these programs know how to pivot between learning models and additional funding and immediate additional funding. That's why we're hoping you all could pass this more immediate. So one, for families to know what their summer options are, and for these programs to also know whether or not they would receive funding or have an opportunity for additional funding to support the students in summer. But It would also allow, like I said, they've been able to learn how to pivot between learning models. So increased funding and this additional funding would also allow them to maybe have a staff that focuses on the in-person and a staff to focus on maybe the online aspects of the programs. And in addition to, a lot of them will have an opportunity to work with MDH, and the additional funding would also allow to provide smaller class sizes for them to pivot should some additional changes happen, as we've seen over the past year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Members, I think with the list of testifiers that we have, my preference would be to take about maybe 4 or 5 testifiers, take a break for questions, and then continue on. I don't see any questions for Ms. Oliver at this time. So next up is Matt Burdick, Director of State Government Relations. And please identify yourself. Welcome to the committee. On deck, we have Steve Bienowski. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to and members. For the record, my name is Matt Burdick. I am the Director of State Government Relations at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify in support of House File 1064, and in particular, the investment of $6 million one time for school-linked mental health services to support students as well as educators and school staff. As we all know, more than ever, school-aged children, frankly, along with the rest of us, are in need of supports to effectively cope with mental health needs that have increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. Minnesota's school-linked mental health program helps schools and families identify and treat mental illness by providing assessments, counseling services, tools for teachers and staff, all to help support students while keeping them close to home and providing those where we often find students in school. Under Minnesota's model of school-linked mental health, which began in 2007, community mental health agencies place their staff in partnering schools to provide mental health services to students. These mental health providers also consult with teachers and provide care coordination, as well as other classroom presentations and school-wide trainings on mental health issues. In 2019, school-linked mental health grantees provided nearly 21,000 students with these services in over 1,100 school buildings and across 328 school districts, reaching over half of the total public school buildings and school districts in the state. The school-linked mental health program helps to increase accessibility for children and youth who are uninsured or underinsured. It improves outcomes for children and youth with a mental health diagnosis and improves identification of mental health issues for children and youth. And youth are 6 times more likely to complete mental health treatment in school than they would be otherwise in community settings. Approximately $5 million of the funds in this bill would be distributed to our current school-linked mental health providers who serve children and family with young children, as well as those that serve communities disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. The funds will be used to mitigate service interruptions that happened when we moved to distance learning and prioritize in-person services when it's safe to do so. It'll allow for the purchase of PPE and other supplies, cover other public health related training costs, and other expenses that have popped up for our grantees related to COVID-19 and the public health emergency. In addition, this proposal addresses the vulnerability of educational staff to experience stress and vicarious trauma during this pandemic. $1 million of this proposal is set aside for school staff to create spaces for teachers and other school staff to seek support. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and happy to stand for questions when the time is appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Burdick. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Bienowski. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me, Chair Sandsted and members of the committee. My name is Steve Bienowski. I'm the superintendent of Richfield Public Schools, and I'm also here representing the Association of Metropolitan School Districts as a member of the board of directors. I'm here to support House File 1064, and I want to applaud this bill for trying to help school districts in supporting students in this challenging time. Supporting students beyond the pandemic and helping school districts in supporting students to make up for lost time. Imagine all the people sharing all the world and our resources. Imagine the world where school districts did not have to scrounge together numerous resources to receive state support for their students. In Richfield, we've had to use every community partner and every possible resource to help serve students, and we've had to do this without much state support. Imagine a world where students in every district had funding to support student needs. Picture your students in Richfield, along with the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, and the Beacons Leadership Program, offering extended programming after school and in the summer. Imagine all the people having local city partnership with the City of Richfield, giving field trips to the local Historical Society or Wood Lake Nature Center. Picture finding tutoring for your students through Dolores Works and their retired teachers. Imagine finding partners like Park Nicolet, Children's Dental, Portico, the Family Partnership, and Nystrom Associates, so your students could experience a full-service community school with wraparound medical, dental, insurance, and mental health supports. In Richfield, we found creative ways to make these things happen. Sadly, many students and many districts do not have access to these types of resources. It's with bills like House File 1064 that would expand opportunities for more students to make up for the so many needs created and increased in our pandemic times of COVID. Without funding or supports, many students in many districts may as well picture themselves in a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies, where rocking horse people eat marshmallow pies. Without funding and state support, these partnerships and opportunities will be just like the Beatles' Fantasyland with Lucy in the Sky. Personally, I prefer a different song, and I prefer to imagine. Imagine all the people sharing. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Imagine supporting House File 1064, and imagine generously providing funding to support making up for what students lost in COVID, the newly created and increased needs of our children. Thank you, and thanks and credit to John Lennon for helping with my words today.
Thank you, Superintendent. It's always wonderful to hear song lyrics and music being brought into this committee hearing. Up next, we have Dr. Campbell, Dean of the School of Education with the University of St. Thomas, and on deck is Annette Solman. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Dr. Kathleen Campbell, and I'm the Dean of the School of Education at the University of St. Thomas. I'm here today to speak in support of House File 1064, and currently the Minnesota Association of Colleges of Teacher Education, or better known as MACD, is supporting a Summer Learning Corps internship program that was developed by members from Minnesota's university system, state system, and private colleges to connect our teacher candidates to districts and interested community organizations in support of their summer school programs. The summer interns in the program would be chosen from a pool of our teacher candidates currently enrolled in traditional and alternative licensure programs in Minnesota. We anticipate that learning losses from this past year will be extensive, and we also anticipate that these losses will result in districts offering summer school to a much higher number of students. The changes in instructional delivery for K-12 students has also affected developmental opportunities for teacher candidates in colleges and universities, as many of their field experience and student teaching opportunities have moved to a virtual format. So while significant learning is possible with these formats, many of our teacher candidates expressed a desire for more opportunities to work in person with children prior to beginning their teaching careers. We believe teacher candidates are also prepared to support nonprofit organizations as they work to ensure students receive a high quality, well-rounded education. Partnering with community organizations allows our teacher candidates to interact with students in a different setting from the traditional classroom. With a strong focus on the social emotional well-being of students, teacher candidates will be able to learn how to apply the best practices from different settings. In closing, we believe that offering paid summer internships to teacher candidates will positively impact student learning at the K-12 level by offering support to teachers and personalized attention to students. And the supplemental experiences for teacher candidate interns will enhance student learning years into the future as those candidates move into their own classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Up next, we have Annette Solman. On deck is Greta Evans-Becker. Welcome to the committee. Ms. Solman, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Annette Solman, and I am the Community Education Director for Stillwater Area Public Schools. I'm here today representing the Minnesota Community Education Association. First, I'd like to thank you for considering this funding for summer programming. As we all know, it will take unique measures to address this unprecedented time for our learners. While teachers and students are doing an exceptional job navigating learning during COVID, it is not the same as other years. At this time, we have only a limited understanding of the impact of implementing various learning models. What we do know is that children benefit from spending time during the summer in enrichment and learning programs with adults who care about them. With this in mind, community education departments across the state are planning summer activities such as preschool camps, youth enrichment classes, school-age care, and adult basic education programs. Much of the success of summer programming starts with planning and preparation. Beyond determining the what, where, and when, we will spend the next couple of months designing programs to meet the desired learning outcomes, hiring staff, and ordering supplies. If transportation and food service are to be offered, those departments will also need time to establish their plans, secure staff, and prepare. While we are still in the process of preparing, we communicate our summer program details to families so that they have time to register their children and take advantage of these opportunities. All of this work is the same, regardless of whether a summer program is offered by a school district, community education, or a community business or organization. And right now, families are thinking about their child's education and establishing summer plans. Certainly, there are amazing opportunities offered, as there will be amazing opportunities offered, as there always are every summer. However, this year, there's an additional incentive to ensure that whatever those choices are, that students will have access to programs that will best prepare them for next school year. If this appropriation is going to have the desired impact, we will need the time to plan and prepare those programs. Please consider an aggressive timeline for approval of these funds. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Solman. Up next is Greta Evans-Becker. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Sandsteed and members of the committee. I'm Dr. Greta Evans-Becker. I'm a former teacher and former elementary school principal. I'm currently a member of the Robbinsdale Area Schools School Board, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Minnesota School Boards Association. I'm here to speak in support of House File 1064. I would like to thank Chair Davnie for authoring this really important bill, which will help students in the Robbinsdale area schools and other schools who've been impacted by COVID-19. Thank you for bringing this forward and for giving it a sense of urgency to allow time for planning. Students in districts of our size or any size would benefit from this bill. As a former preschool teacher, early childhood education is near and dear to my heart. This summer, 4- and 5-year-olds would have a chance to learn what it's like to be in school, and teachers would have a chance to place academic and emotional supports in place to provide for a positive start to the kindergarten year in the fall. This bill would mean that Robbinsdale teachers and other teachers could provide for more robust summer programming. I am so glad that the author of this bill recognizes the importance of field trips. The real firsthand learning experiences the students have by field trips will bring history, science, and biology and other subjects to life. Field trips can also increase reading comprehension for students because it provides them background information, which helps them to relate to and interpret what they've read. The increased opportunities for mental health support from this bill for children is critical. We're thankful that lawmakers see the need for this. Even without the stress of COVID, students and their families have a huge need for mental health supports. The past year of changes and trauma brought on by the pandemic have exacerbated this need. Thank you for understanding this and including this in support of this. Other school board members and I appreciate the fact that you're addressing the enrollment loss due to the pandemic. The Robbinsdale district has lost 518 students this past year, and school districts across the state are also experiencing enrollment loss. Thank you for your assistance on this bill. Time is of the essence. Please don't wait till the end of the session to pass this bill. It takes time to hire teachers, write the curriculums, arrange sports for students' mental health, and it takes time to plan for high quality field trip experiences. Districts need time to promote these opportunities, and families need time to learn about them and register their students. We feel a sense of urgency getting this bill passed. Thank you, Chair Sandstein. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Evans Becker. Up next is Miss Reverend Dr. Darcelle Hill, and then we will take a brief pause for questions. We still have 7 additional testifiers after this one. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Dr. Darcelle Hill, and I'm representing the St. Paul Public Schools Children's Defense Fund Freedom School. I am the Executive Director of that program. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share how important this program is for our scholars as well as our parents and community. I want to thank you for your support of the House File 1064 and how it is so important for our scholars who are primarily low income, African American, and have the opportunity to go on the field trips that parents cannot afford, and also to give them an opportunity to grow. Field trips are very, very important. So I would like to share briefly some of the important components of CDF Freedom Schools. We are a 6-week summer program and focuses on math, literacy, and cultural enrichment through STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We our component and our motto is we can make a difference, and each person takes that personally. So we have been proven to be an evidence-based program, and we feature culturally responsive curriculum as well as activities. Next slide, please. So our scholars actually see themselves represented in the classrooms, in our leadership, volunteers, and next slide, please. And even in our books. That's really important because how can a person be what they cannot see? So they see themselves representative. And it has been proven that when children, cultures are represented and that they have input into their learning, that academics grow. Next slide, please. We have 7 essential components. We are a standard-based, research-based, academic, career-building enrichment program that also includes parent and family engagement, community involvement, and positive social action. And we also have an intergenerational servant leadership team that stems from the parents as well as the scholars and their educators. We focus on health and wellness and workforce development and college and career readiness, and for kindergarten through 8th grade, and field trips is a very essential component to CDF Freedom Schools. So what we believe, we demonstrate and model before our children, and we believe, and all the children believe, that they are capable of learning and achieving at high standards. Next. Thank you. So one of the field trips that we focus are on career clusters and also on the technology and engineering, arts, and math, because these are high programs where people can get better income. Next, please. You will see more of our performances by these links, and we will share those links with you so you can see our children's performances. So with college and career readiness, we have appropriate age groups that are involved in our programming. And also with middle school, with our field trips for middle school not only includes the fun field trips like Sky Zone or leadership building at the ropes courses, but we also take our children on the career cluster field trips, such as Como Park. And so we want to emphasize the importance of having more field trips for our children and how it expands the horizon, gives them a safe place to laugh and be children, because of sometimes the violence in the communities and the affordability that we can provide for families to expand their horizons. And our parents are also, and community members are also involved in that. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Up next, if we can take that screen down, I can check to see if we have members with questions. I know I'm moving quickly. I don't see any questions. Oh, Representative Thompson, briefly, please.
Briefly, I wasn't a part of Freedom School, but as a young parent with two young kids, I was a part of a program called Parent Academy. And Dr. Darcelle Hill just so happened to be the person who was the instructor at the time. And so, but there were parents who didn't know how to read. And your parents that didn't know how to navigate the public school system, didn't even know how to read a report card for their children. And that was like the most mind-boggling. It wasn't embarrassing for the parents either, but as a young parent, I want to say thank you. That wasn't the case for me and my wife, but as a young parent, I want to say thank you, because here's one of your babies now, representative. And so thank you, because I do know Freedom School and the work that Freedom School does this in the summertime. And I just wanted to say thank you and just uplift you in the work that you're doing, Dr. Hill. And I say continue to do that work. Thank you so much. I don't know if
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Not seeing any other questions, we are going to proceed with our testifiers. Up next is Kevin Wellen, Superintendent of Monaga Public Schools, and on deck is John Ashby. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Wellen, proud superintendent of the Monaga Public School, who, as Deputy Commissioner Mueller indicated, is one of those schools that have been in person pre-K-12 since September 8th, the first day we could have kids in school, and we're in person still today. That being said, I am here to represent all of the school districts in the state that have been losing students to homeschooling. Because when we started planning this year, we were closing in on 1,100 students in our district. Today we have 840. We lost over 200 students, almost 20% of our population, in 5 weeks. And the thing I want to make sure you're all aware of is the timelines that we were given that are imposed by law or by directives have handcuffed us and put us in a lose-lose situation. So back a year ago when, or almost a year ago, when the state told us to stop in-person learning and start doing distance learning, we had already set our budget for this year. And the law requires that if we're going to lay off tenured teachers, we do that by April 17th, or our April board meeting, which is the 17th. That's 1 month into the pandemic. July 25th, we got the mandate to wear masks in schools. July 1st, 24 days earlier, was the last day we could tell non-tenured teachers that they would not have a job. We had no time to plan. We didn't know we knew we were going to lose students. Parents told us they were going to pull them unless the mask ban was lifted. We were all optimistic. Then the executive order on July 30th said we needed our plan to create a safe learning plan. We approved that 2 weeks later, August 17th. So from August 18th, when we said you have to wear a mask or a shield, depending on your situation, we had 211 students become homeschoolers, not distance learners, homeschoolers. And they did it because they didn't want to have their kids wear masks. As a matter of fact, most of them said the minute that mandate is gone, our kids will be back in school. With that, we offered up distance learning. We offered to anyone who wants it. But due to increased screen time that they don't like for their, especially their younger students, and with the bandwidth, because we have large families, we have 4, 5, 6 kids all need to be on the internet at the same time for distance learning. They elected to do distance or to do homeschooling. And that happened over 5 weeks. Now, we were hopeful that those kids would come back. So our enrollment, we left at our projected almost 1,100 students. October 1st, the state said, no, you must update your enrollment to match your actual enrollment. So we had to take those 211 students off our rolls. And on November 1st, they gave us 0 aid that month because they'd been paying us already for 200 extra students. So we were expecting $500,000 in our aid payment. We got 0 in November. Every payment from here on out has been reduced, and we will be deficit spent this current year $1.4 million. And that already includes the declining enrollment revenue that we're getting from the state, the 28%. This will increase, the House File 1064 will increase that for Monaga about $283,000. That will buy us almost 5 teachers that we won't have to reduce while we see if we get those kids back, because we still don't know if we're going to have to wear masks in the fall. The timelines are not helping us. By the end of the year, we'll be down $1.4 million. We were fortunate to plan ahead and have a healthy fund balance. We'll be down to 1 month operating revenue. And if we don't make, and right now we're talking $1 million worth of reductions for the coming year, if we don't make that, we will be in SOD by the end of next year. And then one more, the second prong of this is because everyone's getting free meals, and don't get me wrong, I'm a proponent of the free meals. Breakfast and lunch for all is what my personal belief is. But because they don't have to fill out the free and reduced lunch forms now, we're actually going to lose $90,000 in revenue for the coming year, also in compensatory revenue. So anything you can do will help. If you pass House File 1064, I can save 5 teachers.
Thank you, Superintendent Wellen.
Thank you.
We are at time on this. Next up is John Ashby from the Neighborhood House. On deck is Tom Citron Heisem. My apologies. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Hi, I'm John Ashby from Neighborhood House. We are a community-based organization on the west side of St. Paul. We are an adult basic education program. And I think Tom will talk a little bit more about adult basic education in general across the state. But I just wanted to say a few things relating to what Representative Thompson said and Dr. Darcelle Hill about working with parents. We've been, over the past 9 months, we've been trying to run some homework help programs for parents and children to come to together. The idea being if a child has homework that they need help with, we want the parent to come to get that help too, so that in the future, maybe the parent can help with assignments that come up. And also just in talking about career pathways, so many of our students are trying to learn the alphabet or trying to learn how to spell their name. And we get a lot of new arrival refugees and immigrants. And Representative Thompson, like you said, you tried to work with parents who struggle with reading. And that's where a lot of our students are at for adult basic education. And I feel like oftentimes career pathways gets lumped into, teaching people how to drive a forklift or how to, work in a kitchen or things like that. But for a lot of us, we're looking at career pathways as being, first you have to learn how to read and do basic math, and a lot of the basic skills are needed for a lot of the refugees who are coming into the state. And I think we're going to see that more and more in the next year or two as unemployment is higher and higher, we're going to need more classes just for some basic skills. And that's kind of what we focus on a lot at Neighborhood House. But anyways, we do English, GED, citizenship and job training classes. And we've been doing it from a distance since March of last year. And I guess the first challenge is trying to connect students to technology, and then we have to teach them how to use it, which can be a challenge when you're trying to teach somebody how to make a resume on Microsoft Word and they're logging in on their smartphone or something. And then just retaining students. There's a lot of need for just providing students with basic needs. If there are students who are going between jobs or struggling to get food, or have 3 kids at home doing distance learning at home, and they're trying to do their distance learning GED. It's just been a big, we're all stretched pretty thin with what we have for the resources for students. And I just saw the chat that said time, so I'll pass to Tom.
Thank you so much, and my apologies if I have these 2 testifiers out of order. Up next is Tom Citron-Heisem. He is with the Literacy Action Network. On deck is Maria Schneider. Welcome to the committee, and please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Tom Citron-Heisem, and I am working with Literacy Action Network, which is the statewide adult basic education professional group. I'm speaking in favor of House File 1064, which would provide $10 million to build capacity in adult education. Just in terms of background, ABE has struggled just as K-12 has over the last year. Our primary challenge, of course, was adapting overnight to an almost exclusively distance learning manner of delivering services. And despite the challenges and barriers, we really accomplished quite a lot. There's a 2-page impact report in your packet that kind of summarizes what we've done. However, major barriers still exist for our learners, especially lack of internet via hotspots, broadband, et cetera, and access to devices. Our learners are largely low income. They're often persons of color. The communities that are both medically and economically most at risk from COVID. So providing the means to access ABE effectively is really an equity issue. We also are facing additional challenges, continued professional development around distance learning, adapting in-person curricula for online use, and developing further career pathways to prepare our adult learners for employment. And also an inability to administer GED tests often due to lockdown. We strongly support the allocation of this money to strengthen our programming and help increase access to our programming. It'll make a real tangible difference to adults who are most at risk in Minnesota: lower paid essential workers, those who are housing insecure and at risk of homelessness due to COVID, communities of color, and those supervising their own children's online education. It'll help us address the many barriers facing these communities while also helping strengthen Minnesota's economy. So in closing, I would ask you to support this allocation. It's really a crucial element in both building the future Minnesota workforce and in ensuring racial and economic equity. Also wanted to just add in closing that we really thank you for your consideration of other measures to increase teachers of color, which is a really crucial means of also improving services for lower skilled adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Welcome to the committee, Representative Joachim, who has joined us. Right now, we have Maria Snyder, Director of the Rainbow Child Development Center in St. Paul, and on deck is Mary Rotter. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Hello, thank you for having me today, Chair and members. My name is Maria Snyder. I am a Minnesota Child Care Association board member and the Director of Rainbow Child Development Center in St. Paul. We are a family-owned 4-star parent-aware rated program that has been serving the community since 1998. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of Governor Walz's proposal of summer funding for preschoolers affected by the impacts of COVID-19. I have seen firsthand the trauma that COVID-19 has inflicted upon Minnesota children and families. This is especially true for families who were already underserved and living in poverty before the pandemic. COVID-19 has pushed the inequities in our communities to a breaking point, and funding is desperately needed to support children going to kindergarten. Even before COVID, Only 40% of children in Minnesota, or 40% of children in Minnesota were considered not ready for kindergarten on their first day of school. Minnesota has some of the largest disparities in educational opportunities for children based on race and income in the entire country. But it doesn't have to be this way in Minnesota, and scholarship funds like the ones proposed by the governor can help decrease the opportunity gap and give children more equitable chances to learn. This is especially true when scholarship funds are prioritized for families who are typically most underserved, such as children with special needs, families experiencing homelessness, and families living in poverty. The impacts of COVID-19 have been far-reaching. Many early childhood programs, including schools and community-based providers, were forced to close their doors during the pandemic. Even for those families whose school or care options remained accessible, many were forced to make impossible choices between their family's health and their child's education, or paying their tuition, or paying for their rent, and to deal with the constant disruptions of service and learning due to COVID-19 quarantine closures. Young children thrive on consistency, and this hasn't been a great year for it. The fact that this proposed funding allows a scholarship model is important, for family choice is key. Even when operating full-time, schools alone do not have the capacity to provide in-person learning for all preschoolers in Minnesota. And I heard Representative Thomas speak to the point about the importance of including families at that decision-making table. Offering scholarships in a mixed delivery format honors family choice and allows for culturally specific community providers to give the necessary high-quality early learning experiences that children deserve. The Minnesota Department of Education defines kindergarten readiness as a support for children that they must have in place in order to foster their development of their own unique characteristics, knowledge, and skills that equip them for optimal school success. Because of the pandemic, Minnesota has not been able to live up to this kind of robust support. Scholarship funds directed to the families who were most negatively impacted by COVID-19 is one way for us to live up to our goals to ensure every child in Minnesota is ready for kindergarten. We have a small window of opportunity to provide financial support for children who, by virtue of birth year, will be heading into kindergarten this fall, having had this historic pandemic disruption immediately prior. These summer scholarships will not make up for everything that some young children have lost. High quality providers know that this will not be viewed as an opportunity to drill letters and numbers that wouldn't be developmentally appropriate or helpful to these children or their future kindergarten teachers. What this funding can do is help prepare children to meet social expectations and be ready to learn. We want children to feel confident and excited about learning and ready to begin their next adventure in school. I urge you to move forward with this proposal for the benefit of all children and families in Minnesota. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Up next is Mary Rotter, owner of Laker Prep School, or Laker Prep Preschool. On deck is Tisha Bolger. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Hi, my name is Mary Rotter, owner and director of Laker Prep Preschool and Early Childhood Centers in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, in Becker County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today to provide support and feedback on the summer learning provisions in Subdivision 8 of House File 1064. I'd like to provide a quick background of my professional history in early education. I've been a kindergarten teacher for 8 years and a K-8 reading specialist for 2 years, both of these at a Hmong charter school in St. Paul. And then in the past 10 years, I have owned and operated and been a pre-K lead teacher in our centers in Detroit Lakes. Being prepared for kindergarten is the secret to success. Child care settings have worked long and hard to keep our doors open prior to and through this pandemic, to provide quality care for all of our children and families. Child care as a whole has been asked by our state leaders to do what we can to keep our economy going by continuing to care for children each day, and we have followed through, sometimes tentatively, sometimes scared, but most of all with passion and pride. I recognize that Minnesota is putting forth effort to support childcare as a profession through access to financial grants, to COVID-19 testing and vaccination. And this has been positively overwhelming, and we are able to keep afloat because of this support. When reading the summer early learning proposal, I think of a few points. First and foremost, I am and always will be an advocate for ensuring children have equitable opportunities to receive quality care and education, enabling them to be a confident and prepared kindergarten student. I am also in favor that the conversation of who and where this particular support comes from should be all inclusive of the broad programming our state offers for preschool. public, private, Head Start, school readiness, etc. This should always be the case when thinking about student success for kindergarten, inside and outside of the pandemic. When thinking about childcare settings and our capacity levels at this time, and in relation to this bill, I'd invite us to think about the logistics to this programming. And childcare settings right now are trying to fill their capacity levels back up after many of us have been running low over this last several months. Although I believe that many programs would gladly welcome pre-K students, there may not be a large number of openings at this time. So short-term expansion in our programs, although a possibility for some, takes time, money, staffing, and licensing requirements to create the quality experience we all anticipate offering these students. With this said, I wonder how we utilize other existing programs that either may not traditionally be open in the summer or are only open in the summer. I think about vacant rooms in Head Start, school readiness, part-time preschool programs that are in churches and other buildings, and how can these be utilized? I also see opportunity in places like Boys and Girls Clubs and community center programming that enrolls children during the summer months and already have staffing planned. How can we include these many certified centers? I ask everyone to strongly consider this funding support to give pre-K students an extra boost this summer, along with thinking of the most logical settings that could support these efforts. At Laker Prep, our tagline is big success starts small. And we owe, and we owe this opportunity to these young Minnesota students.
Thank you, Ms. Rotter. Up next is Tisha Bolger, and on deck is Heather Alden. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Tish Bolger, and I'm the CEO for the Girl Scouts of Minnesota and Wisconsin River Valleys. Girl Scouts has over 100 years of experience supporting girls in learning and development. Our council serves 26,000 girls across 44 Minnesota counties in the metro and southern third of the state. And Girl Scouts River Valleys offers subject-focused experiential learning events like STEM and Girl Scout Camp, along with special initiatives like our Girl Scout Connects program, which is designed to reach girls in low-income communities. We have continued to provide support and learning opportunities to Minnesota girls amid this pandemic. We have been open, and we've been doing fabulous program. On behalf of the Girl Scouts of River Valleys, I am very supportive of House File 1064 being brought forward today. Looking at the bill, there are a number of areas where Girl Scouts could partner with our Minnesota school districts to help girls and families, such as community partnerships, expanding access to school and emotional supports, mental health programs, field trips and hands-on learning, and college readiness initiatives. Our Connects program works with over 100 site partners, a majority of which are schools, to offer culturally responsive leadership programming to girls who do not traditionally have access to Girl Scouts. Our staff-led program is adaptive to the communities served and serves primarily girls of color and girls on the free and reduced price lunch program. Our program provides social and emotional learning, leadership skills, supplemental STEM education, financial literacy, and college and career readiness. Connects Girl Scouts have opportunities to explore careers in the trades and STEM professions through hands-on programming and field trips to local trade schools and community colleges. The challenge, Madam Chair, is that the demand in the schools and communities outweighs the supply. We hear from schools and school districts that they want to partner with us or expand existing programs, but we simply cannot meet the demand. We know that the demand has only become greater due to COVID-19. The need for enriching and intentional learning opportunities for children has grown, and this legislation is a step in the right direction in providing that after a very difficult school year. Girl Scouts is a time-tested leadership program. Girl Scouts works, and we're available as a resource to girls, their families, school districts, and communities across the state. Thank you for your time and consideration. I encourage every committee member to support our communities by supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bolger. My apologies for mispronouncing your name.
That's fine.
On deck right now is up next is Heather Alden. She is supervisor with the project Reach and Fostering Connections with the St. Paul Public Schools. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Chairman Davnie and committee members. My name is Heather Alden. I am the McKinney-Vento liaison for St. Paul Public Schools. I come before you with 20 years as a school social worker in St. Paul, Minnesota. I have served as a past president of the Minnesota School Social Workers Association and the Midwest School Social Work Council. As a licensed clinical social worker in my various leadership roles at the state and regional level, I am acutely aware of the intensity of the impact that this pandemic has had on the mental health of our children. School social workers across the state, like myself, have witnessed the stress of having children with acute mental health needs unable to attend school, and parents trying to navigate the educational demands of distance learning, coupled with the social emotional demands of navigating living with a child struggling with mental health. Parents have lost their jobs or needed to quit due to lack of childcare and to support their children with distance learning. This pandemic has forced our families to navigate the challenges of food and job insecurity, unstable housing, inadequate access to healthcare, including mental health support, and lack of reliable internet access. Like many of my colleagues, I have done porch visits with families throughout our city, bringing food and school supplies, chargers, hotspots, calming tools to help their kids in navigating these really unprecedented times. I have provided telehealth support to an often empty screen, coaching the kiddo to come from underneath the desk or back into the room and co-regulate with me so they can remember their tools to manage their big feelings of anxiety, or coach them some depressive episodes so they can re-engage in school. The provisions outlined in House File 1064 would allow many children, from our youngest learners to our high school students, access programming to make up for the deficits in their social, emotional, and academic growth. Children want to learn, and their parents want desperately to give their children everything that they possibly can to help them become successful adults and members of our community. This bill gives communities the opportunity to provide the critical mental health supports necessary to address the trauma and impact of this time away from school. This can provide our children the opportunity to make up for the gaps in their learning and come to school in the fall of 2021 better equipped for school. Our schools are the cornerstones of our community, and without them providing academic, social, emotional support and meeting our students' basic needs, there is a tremendous void. This void has been the reality for children and families throughout our entire state. The time is now for us to reset as a state and address the needs of our most vulnerable and underserved community, our children. We as a state need to put their needs in the forefront of our decision-making, because without support now, the trauma they have endured can be hardwired and create the narrative for their futures. We as the state of Minnesota have the opportunity to be creative, revolutionary, and intentional with providing the vital funding to ensure schools have school-employed mental health professionals who can utilize their unique skill sets to empower our students and their families to recover, heal, and move forward into the future. I encourage you to please consider this bill as an opportunity to change the course of our children's future by providing communities throughout our state access to necessary funds to provide excellent and essential mental health supports, as well as creative and innovative educational programming as soon as this summer. This is an opportunity for all of you to help our children rise up and stand tall again. This is an opportunity for Minnesota to put children first, move our most vulnerable members of our population, our children, towards social, emotional, and economic stability. I want to thank you for your time and allowing me the opportunity to testify today on behalf of the children in our communities across the state.
Thank you, Ms. Alden. Members, that does take us to the end of our testifiers. We have a couple of minutes left for questions if there are any, but before we go to questions, I just want to thank all of the testifiers for your very impassioned testimony on the issue of our children and the well-being of their education. We saw some very heartfelt and emotional expressions of getting behind our kids, and I appreciate that very much. Members, we do have time for a couple of questions if there are any. I'll just give it a minute. I'm looking. I do not see any questions at this time. Chair Davnie, any closing comments? You're muted. That's okay.
That was a good idea earlier. Madam Chair, thank you for your stepping into the role today. Much appreciated. And let me share the same appreciation you just expressed to all the testifiers for taking the time and attending today, participating, and demonstrating the insights, providing the insights and demonstrating the passion and commitment that they did to the children of Minnesota and to our schools and communities and families. So thank you all for that. Madam Chair, I think this has been a robust hearing showing the many dimensions of need and opportunities to respond to it in concrete and specific ways today. With that, I'd renew my motion that House File 1064 be laid over for possible future action. Thank you for that.
Thank you, members. And just a reminder again, as Representative Davnie said, no formal action is being taken today. My heartfelt appreciation again to all of our testifiers and members. Thank you so much. And with that, today our meeting is adjourned.